Hello guys, welcome back to the first of a long series of NHL Power Rankings. Now, I'm going to be doing this every single Thursday throughout the season, and of course this will be the first video of it. Now, what is a power ranking? For sports, it usually means ranking all the teams 31 to 1. That's the case for the NHL, and of course that's what I'll be doing throughout the series. Now, for these videos, for my rankings, it's not just based on the standings. Of course, then it wouldn't really be my rankings. But for these rankings, it's based off of momentum, it's based off of the skills, and of course, it's based off of what I got to saw throughout the week, and which teams I thought looked the best, and which teams I thought looked the worst. Now, another thing to preface before we start the first power rankings is, of course, we're very early into the season. We're practically now a week with the season now, and at most, teams have played 4 games. There's still a few teams that have only played 1 game on the season. So again, take these rankings with a grain of salt because we've had a super small sample size so far. And another thing, of course, with these rankings, they are my rankings. And I also want to hear from you guys. What do you think were the best teams this week? What do you think were the worst teams this week? And if you want to be that crazy, go for all 31 teams and let me know your rankings down below. Now, to start off the power rankings, I have the New York Rangers at number 31. And when I was making these rankings, you know, for me, there was no other choice but to put the New York Rangers at number 31. Of course, they start out the season at 0-3-0. Abysmal start of their season. Again, people expected them to rebuild. People expected them to be in this phase of youth, to be in these phase of mistakes. So for them, I think it's fine that they're in this rebuild stage because I think a lot of us expected that. At number 30, I have the Detroit Red Wings. They start out their season 0-1-2. Not the greatest start for them, obviously, and they've not scored a lot of goals. That's been their main problem so far, but their goaltending has been pretty rough. Their defense is the Detroit Red Wings defense. They've had some injuries, of course. They had Zetterberg to start of the season, which was a big blow to them, but their defense, of course, has been banged up for this past week, which has hampered them a little bit. But so far, for the start of the Detroit Red Wings, I predict them to be the worst team in the league. So far, while they're looking to be second last in the league, they are not looking good so far. At number 29, I have the Minnesota Wild at 0-1-1. And now, again, I think this is a little bit harsh for them, but so far this season, they have not impressed me whatsoever. I didn't expect them to make the playoffs. I predicted them to be out of the playoffs, and I already had low expectations for them. But so far in the season, it's not been great. Again, they've only played 2 games, but they've only scored 2 goals, so it hasn't been the greatest season for them so far. Maybe they'll rebound. They have some key injuries on the team right now, but for right now, it's not looking great, especially with that offense, which is looking pretty lackluster right now. At number 28, I have the Edmonton Oilers. Now, this is solely based off of the 1 game that they played. Of course, that was the Global Series versus the New Jersey Devils, but they did not look the greatest. Now, I predicted them to be the best team to miss the playoffs, but so far in that game, they kind of showed the old mistake that they had last season. The goaltending wasn't the greatest, defense was kind of lackluster, and the offense, while it was solid, it wasn't good enough to get them the win. And it just repeated the same mistakes that they had last year, and so far, while it is early, they've only played 1 game. That 1 game gave me quite a bit of concerns to where their season might not be as good as I thought it would. At number 27, I have the St. Louis Blues. Now, I predicted them to be a pretty good team getting 3rd in the Central Division, but so far, in the 2 games they played, they haven't impressed me a lot. Again, it kind of showed the same mistakes that they had last season. The goaltending has not been the greatest on their part so far. The defense has been okay, but not where it needs to be. And the offense, while it has been okay, it needs to step up the St. Louis Blues. And for me, while I think they'll still be a decent team, I still think they'll be a very, very good team. What they've shown so far has not really impressed me whatsoever. At number 26, I have the Arizona Coyotes. They have a 1-2-0 record. Now, they would have been lower had they not won that game versus Anaheim. Again, they won that last game, I think it was yesterday, 3-2 in a shootout, which was huge for them. Again, in the first 2 games of their season, they didn't score any goals, and there was some very good concerns, of course. I predict them to make the playoffs, #GravJinx, but for them, I expected a lot more so far, and that shootout win was definite progress for them. So far, they still have not shown a lot for me that they'll be that playoff team that I predicted them to be, but that shootout win is progress, and if they can continue to get those wins in the Pacific Division, who knows if they can continue right now, but with that win, it does propel them further. I didn't have them lower before. At number 25, I have the Ottawa Senators. They've gone out to a 1-2-1 record now. This is about where I thought they would be if we're going by standings right now. The Ottawa Senators, I think, are 5th place in the Atlantic Division, and they've actually played pretty well on the offensive side. side has looked amazing for them. I thought that they're going to win games with Craig Anderson being a lot better, but so far he hasn't given me a lot of faith that he is going to be that guy for them. Right now, Ottawa has looked a lot better on the offensive end and is scoring a ton of goals, which right now is working for them. Again, they're still not going to be the greatest team, but they've shown some impressions, and with Brady Tkachuk now coming into the lineup and scoring some goals, watch out for Ottawa's offense. Not their defense or their goaltending, that's still going to be a problem, but their offense has impressed me so far. At number 24, I have the New York Islanders. Now, they've actually gone out to a decent start so far, having a 2-1-0 record, but so far, the goaltending has been solid for them. The defense has still been lackluster, and the offense has done pretty well, but to me, I just don't see this sustaining. Their schedule, while it's not the hardest in the world, it has some bumpiness to that, and for the New York Islanders, I still don't expect them to be a great team, and while they have shown me to prove me wrong so far, we're still early into the season, and I still expect the New York Islanders to come back down a little bit to earth now. At number 23, I have the Vancouver Canucks. They started their season out with a 1-2-0 record. So far, it's pretty much just been the Elias Pettersson show. He's been amazing so far. Right now, he is my Calder favorite. I don't know if he'll win that, but he's shown himself to be in the lead right now. With the goaltending, it's so far been pretty disastrous. The defense has been bad, of course, but that offense has been pretty solid, and guys like Elias Pettersson have been carrying it so far. So for Vancouver, while they haven't been winning a ton of games, they, of course, have the Elias Pettersson show, and they have Elias Pettersson, so far I think it's pretty good for them, and they'll still be in the race for Jack Hughes and that number 1 pick. At number 22, I have the New Jersey Devils. Now, the main problem for me is that they've only played one game. Now, it was a win versus the Edmonton Oilers in the Global Series. They looked pretty good. I thought they were pretty good in all aspects of the game there, but for me, we've only seen one game from them. I don't expect them to make the playoffs. I expect them to be one of the bottom teams in the Metropolitan Division, so far they have looked good, but I need to see more of them before they raise in these power rankings. At number 21, I have the Los Angeles Kings. They are at 1-1-1 record. Pretty even right there. So far, it's been a mixed season for them. Of course, they played 3 games, but their offense and the defense, they've allowed as many goals as they put into other goalies' nets. So far for LA, it's looking decent. The offense is okay. Again, it's going to start to gel in the next few months here, and of course, they have Jonathan Quick on IR, which is the biggest problem for them. They have their starting goaltender out, and while Jack Campbell can be a decent backup for them, I don't think he's starting material anytime soon, and having Jonathan Quick out is a huge blow to their team. At number 20, I have the Buffalo Sabres. They've started their season out 2-1. So far, they look decent for me, and there's been some concerns, of course, with the goaltending, but Hutton has looked very, very solid so far. The offense, it took a little while in those first couple of games to get going, but they did do pretty well, I'm pretty sure, in that third game. But for the Buffalo Sabres, they're starting to get rolling now. We're starting to see Rasmus Dahl really cycle into this team. Jeff Skinner really cycle into this team, and once they start getting going, once this offense starts producing a little bit more, the Buffalo Sabres will be a pretty decent team. I don't expect them to make the playoffs, but so far, they've looked decent. At number 19, I have the Philadelphia Flyers. They've started their season out 2-2, and it might be the weirdest team in the NHL right now because at one point, they're looking fantastic. They're looking great. At others, they lose 8-2 against the San Jose Sharks, and it feels like it's all crumbling apart. For the Philadelphia Flyers, it's pretty much just been 50-50 for me right now, and we really don't know the Flyers' true identity. Will they be a good team, or will they keep putting up stinkers on the board? Will they miss the playoffs? We don't know right now, but it's 4 games in the season, and so far, Philadelphia has not really impressed me on being a consistent team so far. At number 18, I have the Montreal Canadiens. They started out 1-0-1. And I'm gonna be honest, they've looked decent so far. Carey Price has looking to be a lot better right now than he was, of course, last season. That's great for the Montreal Canadiens if they want to be competitive. So far, their offense has not really been all that bad. They've scored some goals, they've made some excellent plays, and overall, they're a much faster team than they were last season. With the defense, there are still concerns there, but so far, I've liked what I've seen from Montreal. Again, I don't see them being a playoff team still, but I've seen some definite progress in their end for becoming a good team, maybe a couple of years, and if Carey Price is still good, hopefully the future is bright for Montreal. At number 17, I have the Vegas Golden Knights with a 1-3-0 record so far. Now, let me just get this out of the way. This will probably be the lowest that Vegas is ever on these power rankings. They're going to be a much better team, hopefully, this season than what they've shown so far. And to me, I think it's just a little bit growing pains. I think it's just a little bit more adaptability. There's some new faces on this team. Guys like Max Pacioretty are starting to gel in now. But with the Vegas Golden Knights, of course, with that Nate Schmidt suspension, we're starting to see the effects of that so far. Fleury hasn't been the greatest, but that defensively has been pretty atrocious, and losing Nate Schmidt on that blue line, I think, affects a lot of things, not just in the locker room, but on the ice. And for Vegas, they're starting to feel the effects. I think they'll still be a good team, but right now we're starting to see the downfall of the Vegas Golden Knights with that defense. At number 16, I have the Florida Panthers. Now, again, another kind of alert here. They've only played one game. It was overtime, or I think an overtime loss versus the Tampa Bay Lightning, or I guess a shootout. And in that game, they looked pretty decent. They had a lot of shots on net, and they looked pretty good. For right now, again, it is still a problem with that sample size. They've only played one game, so we need to see a little more of them to see their true identity, to see what they're made of. I still think they're being a very, very good team, but right now, they're lower because I just haven't seen a ton of them. At number 15, I have the Pittsburgh Penguins. They've started their season at a 1-1-0 record, but so far I have not liked what I've seen. Again, with Matt Murray being concussed now, there's a huge gap in that goaltending position. He wasn't great to start of the season, but I predict him to have a much better season than he did last season, so hopefully he'll get healthy from that, but the goaltending situation is just too big of a problem right now. That defense has been lackluster defensively. It's been really bad efforts on their part for the two games that they played so far. The offense has been amazing, and that's to be expected, but the holes that I thought they had are really starting to show, especially with the goaltending problem not being sorted out. At number 14, I have the Colorado Avalanche. Now, they've started out their season 2-1. They're currently 3rd in the Central Division. So far, it's been decent from them. I've liked what the offense has brought, even though it hasn't been the greatest. That goaltending situation, it still is up in the air who will be the starter there, but I think both goaltenders have looked solid so far. The defense has looked meh, in my opinion. For the Colorado Avalanche, I think they still have some holes in that depth, but especially with that defense and the goaltending situation. It might just be back and forth, which might get them a playoff spot, but won't do any favors in the playoffs. At number 13, I have the Anaheim Ducks. They started their season 3-0-1. Now, I would have them higher. They've looked good so far, but it's pretty much just been John Gibson. He's looked amazing so far. I thought he was the top 5 goaltender in the league, but he's putting up a Vezina-type season so far. Again, we're still early in the season, but he's been amazing. That offense, there have been some great rookies coming up like Maxime Comtois, Sam Steele, and some other guys that I'm forgetting right now, but for Anaheim, the future's looking bright. That defense has been allowing a lot of shots. It hasn't been the greatest so far. So for Anaheim, there is an asterisk with wins so far. If they can sustain that, that would be great, but again, the injuries are starting to creep up with them. At number 12, I have the Columbus Blue Jackets. They've started out their season 2-1. They've looked decent so far. The offense is starting to roll, especially in that last game. And with the goaltending, of course, you still got that situation with Borowski on if he'll stay or not. But Korpisalo did look good against the Detroit Red Wings in the first game, I do believe. And so far, it has looked good for Columbus, of course. They do have Seth Jones out, so that is a big problem for them. He is that number 1 guy and one of the best defensemen in the league. So that's a problem. But the defense, it's been a lackluster since Seth Jones has been out. But it's been decent enough to win some games so far, and hopefully for Columbus that continues. At number 11, I have the Boston Bruins. Now, they've started their season 2-1 already. Now, for the Boston Bruins, it's been an interesting story. They've scored a lot of goals. They've scored 10 goals so far, but they've allowed 10 goals so far. So they're winning games right now with a 2-1 record, but the goaltending has been pretty bad to say the least. Tuukka Rask, of course, having that terrible game against the Washington Capitals. Halak has been decent so far, but we'll see how that continues. But Rask so far has shown me nothing to really say that he's a bona fide starter for the Boston Bruins now. Really, it still is early, but right now there are some concerns with the Boston Bruins. While they're scoring goals, I think they're allowing just too much right now, and for the future, it still is looking good for Boston, but they're going to have to allow, and they're going to have to make some closer games right now because they can't allow that many goals, or as many goals as they've been allowing. At number 10, I have the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, again, this is why the NHL is so early right now. We're 3 games in the season, or 4 games in the season for some teams. The Chicago Blackhawks are currently leading the Central Division. They're 2-0-1, and I'm going to give them credit. They've looked good so far. Offensively, there's a ton of guys that have been rejuvenated, and a ton of guys that are looking a lot better, especially Jonathan Taves, who has really impressed me so far. The defense and goaltending, however, is a lackluster to say the least. Cam Ward is not a starter, and we all know this. Corey Crawford, his future is really uncertain when he'll get started, but I think in the next month we will start to see him on the ice again, and for Cam Ward, it's just not good enough. That defense, not good enough. But with the offense so far, it has looked good, so I'm going to give him credit there, but I'm not sure how long this will last. At number 9, I have the Calgary Flames. Now, they've started their season 2-1, and I wasn't going to put them this high, but that game against Nashville the other night, they looked pretty good, especially Mike Smith, who in the first couple of games against Vancouver did not look so good, but he had a shutout against Nashville and really was a lot better. For the Calgary Flames, I expect them to be a decent team this season. I expect them to get second in the Pacific Division, so right now, it's looking decent. Their offense has been producing, and so far, there is future in Calgary, and it has looked very, very good. At number 8, I have the Dallas Stars. They've started out 2-1. In the first 2 games, I love their effort. I love what they're doing. They honestly had 2 fantastic games versus the Arizona Coyotes and the Winnipeg Jets. But the Toronto Maple Leafs game was a different story. They allowed a ton of goals that they shouldn't have. Of course, they scored a lot of goals, but it just was not enough for them. And right now, in this next game, I expect it to be a lot different versus, I'm pretty sure, the Anaheim Ducks. For the Dallas Stars, they've looked good so far. That Toronto game is one to forget, though, and hopefully they continue to play like they did in their first 2 games. At number 7, I have the San Jose Sharks. Right now, they started their season 2-2. I predicted them to win the President's Trophy. I predicted Jones to win the Vezina Trophy, among other things as well. I also predicted Erik Karlsson to win a Norris Trophy. I had a lot of hopes for San Jose going into the season that they're going to do very, very well. So far, kind of like Philadelphia, they've had some good games and they have some bad games. Of course, during Philadelphia, that 8-2 game was amazing for them. Their power play started to finally get going, and it was on the right track. So for San Jose, I still expect them to be a very good team. Again, it is still early, but right now, they haven't shown a ton of that. But right now, there is still amazing hope for them that they'll have that great season. And again, we're only 4 games in, so take these records with a grain of salt. Speaking of grain of salt, let's talk about the Carolina Hurricanes at number 6. Of course, they're leading, I'm pretty sure, the NHL along with the Anaheim Ducks with 7 points on the season at a 3-0-1 record. And of course, I talked about them yesterday. I love what they've been doing so far. The goaltending, McElhinney has looked decent so far, while Mrazek has looked lackluster. The defense has been fantastic, but on the offensive end, the defense has been good also, but the offense is where it really shines. Guys like Fagel have looked amazing. Sebastian Aho has looked amazing. Guys like Stahl have really rejuvenated their careers. And of course, the big rookie in there, Svechnikov, has looked fantastic. For Carolina so far, there is definite hope for their future with the offense, with the defense. It's looking fantastic right now, and if they can find some consistent goaltending throughout the year, they could make the playoffs, and it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. At number 5, I have the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, they're another team that has started their season off with 1-0. Again, another team with only 1 game played on the season, so take their season with a grain of salt, even though they won. Again, with the Tampa Bay Lightning, I expect them to be a fantastic team, one of the best teams in the NHL, and so far, with that win versus Florida, they look pretty decent, especially Andre Vasilevsky. So far, I need to see more from them to really get a grasp of what they'll be this next season, but it is still early for them. But again, it is my expectations that they will be a good team, so right now they got that advantage. At number 4, I have the Nashville Predators. They are at 2-1 on the season. Of course, the Nashville Predators are a fantastic team, and they will be this next season, even if they haven't gotten to the greatest start. Even 2-1 is respectable, though. So far, they've looked decent. The goaltending has been solid for them. The defense has been solid. The offense, again, has been solid for them. And again, no complaints on Nashville's end either. It was a disappointing loss versus the Calgary Flames, but they had a lot of shots. They had a lot of opportunities. They probably should have gone in. So for Nashville, they're still looking like a fantastic team, and they probably will be again this next season. At number 3, I have the Winnipeg Jets. Now, they've started their season in a 2-1 record. They didn't look good versus Dallas, but the 2 games after that, or the 2 games in between that, were pretty good for them. Winnipeg Jets, I had some concerns coming into the season. I still thought they were going to be a pretty good team, but I thought Connor Hellebuyck was going to take a little bit of a step back. So far, he's looked pretty good. The defense has been meh so far. We'll see what happens there. So far, the Winnipeg Jets still look like a pretty good team, and of course, this next season, they're looking to be a great team once again. The Winnipeg Jets still is early, but they have looked good so far. At number 2, I have the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, they've started their season at a 3-1 record. So far, been pretty good. And, of course, the main storyline is that offense. It's a first in the league right now, and it's shown that Austin Matthews has been on a tear lately. Morgan Riley has been fantastic. John Tavares, of course, Mitch Marner, and all those guys have been fantastic. The defense has been okay, and the goaltending of Frederik Andersen has been amazing so far still. I feel like the Toronto Maple Leafs are, of course, the biggest hype team this year. So far, they've looked to be that, and they've been super fun to watch so far with all these high-scoring games. Of course, with the Toronto Maple Leafs, we expected that to be happening already, but it's already happening in the first 4 games to where Toronto is scoring 8 goals, 7 goals, 6 goals. It's been crazy so far to see what the Toronto Maple Leafs offense has been able to do, but it's been great so far. Now at number 1 for the first week of the power rankings, I got the Washington Capitals. Gonna give some respect to the Stanley Cup champions. They've started out 2-1, and I really like what I've seen so far. Again, that one loss was against in overtime against the Pittsburgh Penguins, but their offense was still amazing. And their offense so far has been the storyline of their season so far, with guys like Kuznetsov, Ovechkin, Backstrom, and TJ Oshie are going to score a lot of goals. But they've been able to do that in bunches so far, and besides the Toronto Maple Leafs, they've looked mighty impressive. The defense and goaltending look okay to say the least, but they've looked solid enough to where I think they're still a fantastic team. And of course, the Stanley Cup champions have looked like they were right back in the Stanley Cup final, playing great against other teams, and so far, I've loved what I've seen from them. Now, while Washington may be first in this week's power rankings, next Thursday, it could be a completely different story. Again, we're really early into the season, so in these first few weeks, there'll be a lot of changes, a lot of different teams rising up, and a lot of different teams making names for themselves. So next week, we could see a completely different list. But of course, I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about my power rankings so far, 1 through 31? Do you enjoy this series so far? And do you agree with my rankings? What are your rankings as well? Let me know what you think are the best team in the league right now. But that's what I have for today, guys. If you guys did enjoy, make sure you like and subscribe. Again, tell me down below what your thoughts are on the power rankings so far, and the series so far, and what your power rankings are as well. And I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.